which helps Camden. And you remember me saying that the Camden's planners find the neighbourhood plan very useful because it guides them about what is important to the local community. Well, there's nothing equivalent on transport that helps the transport teams.
So when the Hampstead neighbourhood plan is designed, so the neighbourhood forum employ the PTAL, the public transport accessibility level. So
when we wrote our transport section, yes.
So it's quite interesting this, because I saw some of the other neighbourhood forum plans, but it's very unique to use the PTAL in your neighbourhood plan.
It's used in the London plan.
Yeah.
I think it is referred to in the Camden plan. So our view was, if it's good enough for the London plan, it's good enough for us.
Yeah.
But the advantage we found was that because PTAL is an objective measure, it avoids argument and subjectivity in the planning process. It's a clear measure. So if we say, if you want to build a healthcare building or a school, the site must have a PTAL level of 4 or 5, and no one can argue about that. If we say it must have good transport, then the developer will argue, yes, my site's got good transport. The council will say, no, the site hasn't got good transport. And it's all very vague. So we found PTAL very useful because it gives an objectivity.
Yeah.
And it can also be recalculated. So if a developer says, okay, my site has not got PTAL level of 4, but if I give you the money to increase the frequency to pay for a new bus service, it is possible to recalculate the value of the PTAL so the developer can show, well, yes, if I pay you this money, that will increase the PTAL score of my site to 5. So it's a very objective measure.
Yeah, it's quite. It can be quite clear evidence. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a very clear standard to discuss.
Yeah.
Yes. According to the Planning Watch, the neighbourhood plan is frequently cited on the decision notice and the planning officer reports and the appeal decisions. Do you think the developers and the planning officers, the planning committee and the inspectors, perceive and interpret the neighbourhood plan in the light of your intention and aspiration?
Do we think the planning officers interpret the neighbourhood plan in the same way as we meant it to be interpreted?
Yes, right. The developers, planning officer, or the other actors.
I think that is ultimately down to the wording of the policies, and we tried very hard to, we looked time and time again at the wording of our policies to make certain that, firstly, that there was sufficient context and explanation, supporting explanation in our plan to help the planning officers interpret our policies, and secondly, to make certain that those policies were clear. So you've mentioned the example of PTAL. So we wanted our policy to be as clear as possible. We didn't want to put in a policy that said there must be good transport, because we knew that our interpretation of good transport might be different to Camden Council's. So we tried to be as clear as possible and said, well, our interpretation of good transport is a PTAL score of 5, so that's what we put in the policy.
And as for the representativeness, was there any conflict with the other residents or local groups? Because the Hampstead neighborhood plan passed the referendum over 90% in favor, but the turnout was slightly over the 20%. So
turnout over 20% is actually quite good for a neighbourhood. And if you look at the MHCLG produces a spreadsheet, you can download it from their site, that shows all the neighbourhood plans that are currently in preparation or progress, and what the referendum results were and the referendum turnouts. And if you look at that spreadsheet, although we got 20%, that's actually on the high end for neighbourhood plans. Quite a few neighbourhood plans got 16 or 17% turnout. And again, our 91% vote in favour was quite high. Some neighbourhood plans get 80 or 70%. So we did quite well, but the important thing is really, in our consultation, we tried to be as broad-based as possible and ensure we spoke to all parts of our community. And then we tried very hard to bring together their different views and produce policies that they could agree on. So, for example, in the transport area, a major local issue is parking. So, we had a lot of, debate amongst local people. So what we tried to do was to synthesize that and then focus the policies in our plan on the things that people could agree on. And then on parking, we basically said that there were different points of view and that therefore, the council's policies must be intelligent and respect those different points of view. So in a sense, it was a little bit of a cop-out. It was but what we did was we then focused on the policies that people did agree on making walking easier, on crossing points, on streets that are inclusive for everyone. And those are the things, and on public transport. Those were the things that everyone agreed on, so those are the things we focused the plan on.
The most Hampstead neighborhood area is covered by the Hampstead Conservation Area. So I think there are very quite particular policies relating to the conservation and the listed building and the basement constructions. So, do you think what is the key policies of the Hampstead neighborhood plan comparing to other neighborhood plans?
Well, firstly, basement development and unsympathetic or predatory basement development is a major problem in our area. It's made worse by the fact that the ground, Hampstead obviously is a hill, it's a hilly area, and that hill is made of sand. And in the sand there are lots of water, underground streams. So there is a danger that basement development that is not carefully done could divert streams and cause problems for neighbouring properties. So that's one area where we took a lot of time to make certain that our plan could be as strong as possible to reflect the wishes of local people. Second area was garden development, building over gardens. So there our policies are quite strong, particularly on local green spaces, many of which are formed by back gardens, large back gardens, and to protect those because they're important to local people. And then thirdly, as you say quite rightly, design and character, and we make many references to the conservation area statements and character assessments that have been done in our plan to make certain that development is sympathetic,